It's 9:06.
Good morning and welcome aboard. This is Lou Grudenberger, and we're with you for the next hour on KOH News Talk 63. We're going to be talking about stress this morning. I've been really stressed out worrying about whether we were going to do this show right or not. No, but seriously, we're going to be talking with a couple of gentlemen who are putting on a seminar, I guess we could call it, for stress-free living, success without stress. We're going to be talking in just a moment with Tom Bargeel and John Brunswig. This Saturday, as a matter of fact, 2 o'clock, and again at 7 at the Reno Sparks Convention and Visitors Authority. They'll be doing this seminar, and when I first talked to these guys, I said, now, wait a minute. We hear about this kind of thing a lot. And they assured me that theirs is different. We're going to find out in just a minute what makes this different, exactly what is success without stress. I assume we all have our own levels of stress. Some people can take more pressure than others, but we'll get into that. And, of course, we'd like to hear what you have to say, too. In just a little bit, we'll be opening our phone lines to you at 356-TALK. That's 356-8255. And, again, may I remind you, we are working on a delay, so when you call, don't forget to turn the radio down. If you call and get a busy signal, don't let that discourage you. Don't let that situation give you stress. Hang up and call right back. And, of course, if you are hearing the line ring, let it ring. We'll get to you as quickly as we can. Just a moment, I'll be chatting with my guests. It's 9:08 at KOH. I'm Lou Grudenberger, and this is News Talk 63. All right, let me welcome my guests for the morning now, Tom Bargeel and John Brunswig. Gentlemen, good morning.
Good morning.
Move in a little bit here now, so we don't cause me stress having to ride your levels a little bit. Tom, you tell me that your sister is married to Desi Arnaz Jr.
Right, they
That's
got
right?
married October 8th. The story's in the National Enquirer. Wonderful marriage.
This is one thing that the Enquirer published that's actually true, huh?
The best story they've ever written.
There's a nice picture in there. It's all right.
A nice upbeat story.
So that's good. And I see that on your flyer that you put out here, your little brochure, you have a picture of Desi. Had you been working with him before, or when he became interested in your sister, did he learn about this project?
Yeah, you know, Amy and Desi met about 6 years ago when Desi came to Boulder City, and Desi came because his manager, Guy Finley, who is Larry Finley's son from Hollywood, Guy introduced Desi to the ideas, and Desi came out to Boulder City, came to a talk, and was truly inspired by the ideas of author Vernon Howard.
All right, now this is where it started, in Boulder City?
Actually, Vernon Howard is from the author of The Ideas of Success Without Stress, is from Los Angeles, but moved to Boulder City about 15 years ago because Los Angeles is simply flooded with self-help.
Stress Central, huh?
Right, it is Stress Central.
All right, let's talk a little bit about this. Well, how did you guys get involved with this project? John, what is your background? Maybe give us a little bit.
I was going to school, learning how to become an architect, and basically I had bought all the ideas that everybody had bought on what was successful, and went to school and put them to work and found out that one thing, Lou, and that was that I wasn't happy. And so you look around and you wonder why, why not? Here I got the things that I wanted. I did well in athletics. I did well in school and relationships, but there was one thing wrong, and I just wasn't happy. I had a lot of stress in my life. And so fortunately, I was able to come across some marvelous principles that I was able to apply in my life that really helped.
You said you got what you wanted. Do you think that we're taught at an early age what we want? Some of the goals that we find ourselves striving for are what other people said. This is what you should do. In other words, to be a success, you have to do this. You don't have a Porsche by the time you're 30. There's some problem with you. All right. So how did this help you?
Well, what I found out was that it's fine and right to go ahead and achieve outer successes. But what we neglect and what is so important for everybody to understand is there's such a thing as inner success. And I had really not known anything about it. And Lou, it's just amazing how we can be prepared to do very well at whatever we do, if we're working radio or if we're an engineer or an architect, that we learn how to do these things very skillfully, but yet we do not learn how to cope with the elementary problems of what I call inner success, and that is how to get rid of stress. And so once we see the problem, we start to understand it, we can start to work on it.
You know, that's a very good point. You talk about the fact that a lot of people who, from all outward appearances, are successful
Right.
are the ones that bend under pressure. We see a lot of people who are making a lot of money, and they buckle under the stress. Sometimes, I'm thinking a lot of people that get into drugs and other pressures there, we're not really prepared to handle all of this.
That's exactly right.
All right. So in this seminar that you're having this Saturday, 2 different sessions, what are you going to cover? Somebody might be listening now saying, yeah, well, I do have some pressures. And as a matter of fact, we want to get into this in just a couple of minutes. You mentioned the gaming industry. Is that right?
Right, yeah.
Yeah, you had some experience with that, and I remember hearing a call on this station just within the last week of a fellow who said, I think he was a dealer, and he was under constant pressure because if you lose too many times, let the patron win, you're out of there. Now that's a terrible amount of pressure and stress they have to live with. How can you help somebody into that kind of pressure?
Well, you know, Lou, I'm going to, being in the gaming industry, I'm going to make a special comments at the talks to the gaming employees of this area that are in the casino industry. And what they can learn is that being in that high-pressure atmosphere, it's actually the best place to work. They're going to have clientele that are very demanding, and they're going to have management that are asking them to be a good public relations employee. And they're going to find out by coming to the talks that they can actually use this high-pressure atmosphere to be more productive by understanding that the pressures are unnecessary, and we'll tell them exactly what all the pressures are, how to get rid of them. They'll go back to work the next day. I promise them the next day they will go back to work and be a more efficient employee.
It's amazing. All right, I'll tell you what, fellas, let me take a quick break here, and we'll open our phone lines at 356-TALK, 356-8255. We have listeners that might have questions on stress. I'm talking with Tom Bargiel and John Brunschwig. Their seminar is coming up this Saturday at the Reno Sparks Convention and Visitors Authority. That's in room B1, if you have all of the rooms memorized, and I know exactly where that is. And 2 sessions, 2 and 7 p.m. All right, 356-TALK.
Exercise that the listeners, that if they come to the lecture at the convention center in Reno, that they'll hear, and this exercise says to know what you're doing at the moment you're doing it. And you can carry this analogy as far as you want to. If the person is practicing watching what they're doing at all times, when they get into that skid, they'll function better. You're talking about like skidding on the bad roads right here around Reno. A great one is when you walk into your house, you've got your car keys with you, and you always take them and give them a little fling. Now that's fine in your house, but when you go to the business office or to a strange place, especially a strange office, and you give the keys a toss, and you don't see where they landed, chances are you'll walk out without your car keys and not even know. And
yeah, that's a good point. All right, what about some of these other stressful situations? Now, we just had a story in our news within the last week of a fellow who was stressed out. He was driving on the wrong side of the road. He had been unemployed, and maybe you remember the story. He shot himself. He got out of the car and shot himself. There are a lot of people looking for a job right now, and obviously this produces stress. What kind of exercises or mental conditioning, if you will, can we suggest?
Right. First of all, you know, it's important to know that what we talked about earlier, that there is such a thing as inner success, and that we don't have to base our happiness and our well-being totally on everything that goes on outside of us. For instance, this man who you were talking about, this is a very extreme example, but it's a good example of how people identify so much with what happens outside of them that they think that is directly related to their own personal well-being inside of them. And so what we can do is begin to see that, how we are attached to these things.
What about some of the other things? Now, we go home at night and we turn on the 6 o'clock news. It's full of stress. You may come home and be perfectly relaxed, and after 30 minutes of that, you're all tense. What kind of conditioning do you recommend to get around this?
Right. You know, one of the things that I like and what I enjoy learning myself is how to become free of exterior influences. And think about this. How nice would it be to be able to go through your day, anybody could tell you anything, they could tell you some bad news, and you still would not be affected by it. And it is possible to be above it. And we're not saying ignore it. We're saying to learn how these things do affect us, how they affect us negatively, and understand it. And when we understand it, we can understand it out of existence.
Okay, thank you, John. Let's go back to the phones again here. Hi, good morning. You're on KOH.
Hello?
Yes, you're on the air.
Yes, sir. I was a little bit curious about the actual seminars. Is this the type of thing where you get in there and they give you a big hype and then try to sell you a $350 set of tapes and, that type of thing? Could you go into that a little bit, tell more about what the seminar actually is about?
All right. We'll do that. Thank you. All right, what about that now? And I noticed on the brochure that you have, it says each talk is different. Do you have a set of tapes available?
Lou, what we hope to achieve at these seminars is we have some $1 booklets for sale at the end of the seminars, and that's the expense of the seminar. We hope to get one small piece of information in the form of a book or a booklet into the hands of anyone who attends these seminars. And you might ask, well, what happens after that? And we would hope that in the future, if someone likes the ideas of author Vernon Howard, that they would come down to Boulder City, Nevada, and hear him talk themselves, because Vernon Howard is the authority on ending stress, on inner turmoil, and just problems in general.
Tom, I don't see any price on this. What are you charging for this seminar?
Lou, you're not going to believe it. Listen to this. This seminar is free.
All right, that's what I was waiting
Does
to
that answer the question?
May I add to this, listen. And also, there's no $50 cassette tape to buy. There's no package to get into. There's nothing to join. You don't have to do anything. You don't have to commit yourself.
November 21st, you could go at either 2 or 7, or both times, I guess.
Right.
It's at the Convention Authority.
Oh,
And it is free.
in Reno?
Yes, and it is free.
Yeah, I caught that part.
That's why you went to the phone, huh?
Well, yes, and it was really nice to hear that we wouldn't be bombarded with having to buy $700 worth of tapes at the
Right.
end. Okay?
All right.
Very good.
Thank you very much.
Thanks very much for the time you took to run and find a phone. Hi, good morning. You're on KOH.
Yeah, I've got a couple of questions. I've been listening about the seminar. The first question is, I live in Carson City. Is there any chance there's going to be anything down in that area? Any talks down there?
Funny you should ask. Fellas are smiling. I see that they have one scheduled for Carson City tomorrow night
Oh, good.
at 7 p.m. at the Carson City Community Center, 851 East William Street in the Sierra Room.
Oh, good.
So that's tomorrow night, the 18th.
Good.
All right, do you have any question on
I've got
stress?
one question. My biggest stress point is dealing with other people. Do they have any particular suggestions on how to, remain calm when you're dealing with other people?
You know, that's a good question, because we run into so many rude clerks today. Have you noticed that? Nobody cares. It used to be you'd go into a place and you'd say, do you have this item? And they'd say, oh, yes, just a minute, sir, and I'll run and find it for you. Now, if you ask for something that they don't have in stock, they look at you like you're stupid because you asked for it. No, we've been out of that for a week. What's the matter with you asking that? So how do you deal with these people?
There's a great answer for this young lady. When you're with other people, and please remember this, one of the things that you do most is you think about what they're thinking about you. Now let me say that one more time. What you're doing is you're thinking about what they are thinking about you. And what we call this in Success Without Stress is we call it a lead brick that's sitting on your shoulders. You don't need to think about what other people are thinking, and when you learn to see that you're doing it, you will in a matter of time drop it, and you will walk through and with fellow human beings, and you'll be as free as a bird.
Yeah, that sounds really good.
Okay.
I think I'll be at your seminar.
Great. Thanks very much for your call. We see that so much. I'm reminded of, I forgot who told me this, but the guy checking out at one of the markets, and the girl mumbled something, and he says, what was that? What did you say? And she turns and says, I said, have a nice day.
Lou, I'd like to add to that, because,
I'd like to add to that, too.
Stress is what is keeping us from having a nice day, and it's it is also what is making us explode and put our pressures onto other people. So if we can learn to get rid of that, all of us, no matter who we are, we can learn to be able to relate with each other better because we don't have these negativities in the way.
Did you have something on that too, Tom?
I was just going to say, Lou, the greatest bumper sticker I saw in 1986 was, "Don't tell me what kind of a date I have."
Yes.
That was my #1 vote.
Yeah, I had somebody say once, if I hear one more person tell me to have a nice
Oh,
day.
boy.
But let's move along with this stress situation. Psychiatrists and psychologists say that stress isn't always bad. Is kind of a... does it give us some kind of an emotional release here?
Oh, I'd like to take off on that one, Lou. They say that stress is not always bad, that it's motivational. Well, if pressure is good, then why are so many people having stress-related diseases? Desi Arnaz Jr., who's our national representative for Success Without Stress, said that pressure and stress drove him to drugs and alcohol. Now that's astonishing, and he even got further facts from the Scripps Clinic down in La Jolla that said that stress is the #1 killer in the world. And I always thought that substances were controlled substances or diseases were, but stress drives everyone to the substances and to the diseases. These are psychosomatic illnesses.
That's amazing. All right, I'm going to take another quick break here, gentlemen, and then we'll be right back. This is a good time for you to get to the phone. If you're driving along looking for a phone booth, we'll give you a couple of minutes here. Our number is 356-TALK. That's 356-8255. It's 9:38 at KOH. I'm Lou Gutenberger, and this is News Talk 63. We're talking about stress. We're talking about success without stress. You know, I think I mentioned at the opening of the show that there are some people who are more susceptible to stress, and I see that doing a talk show because there are some people who you can say just about anything and it goes right past them, and other people who will call up regularly on a talk show and say, "What do you mean by that? What did you say that for?" All right, so we're talking about different levels of stress. Let's go back to the phones. Good morning. You're on KOH.
Good morning, gentlemen.
Good morning.
Excellent discussion this morning. I'd like to share something that I do on a daily basis. I drive a large, slow vehicle for a living. And, well, because I'm large and slow and in the right-hand lane where I'm supposed to be, you get a lot of people that tailgate you and go screaming around you, and the majority of them are programmed to, well, let's say give you half the peace sign or the American Eagle or what have you.
Yeah, right.
Well, it seems that they are programmed to accept an equally obscene gesture in return. Well, something I've been doing for years, when this situation occurs, and I mean, I'm just there, it's not my fault. Instead of giving them what they expect, I smile and tip my hat. And the idea is you see the look of total confusion on their face. And it makes you feel good. The other guy probably measures blood pressure in pounds per square inch, but who cares?
You know, you could even be doing the speed limit and have them try to pass you like that.
Precisely.
Yes.
Well, or like what's his name on TV says, it works for me.
Good. That's a good tip.
Thank you.
Thanks very much for your call. 356-TALK. We're talking about stress this morning. Good morning. You're on the air.
Yes, sir. I called with a question earlier. Is it possible to ask a second question?
Sure.
Actually, a two-part question. I was...
You already asked one, but go ahead. Ask another.
Okay, thank you. I guess I'm double-dipping.
Yeah.
One thing I was curious about is that I live up at Lake Tahoe. I've heard him say that there's a talk at Carson City. Is there any chance there's a talk up here? The second part of my question is who's Vernon Howard? Could you go into that a little bit? I've never heard of him.
All right. In answer to the first part of that question, there is a talk at South Lake Tahoe tonight, the 17th at 7 p.m. at the El Dorado County Free Library, South Lake Tahoe Boulevard, 1000 Rufus Allen Boulevard. You know where that is?
I live at North Shore.
No.
Spell that again, please. Rufus?
Yeah, 1000 Rufus Allen Boulevard.
Okay.
Okay, but there is one tonight at 7 at South Lake Tahoe.
Good.
All right.
And who is Vernon Howard?
All right, we'll get into that. Thanks for your question. All right, tell us about Vernon Howard.
Sure. Vernon Howard is a world-famous author. He's written over 30 books and has over 6 million readers. And right now, Vernon Howard has taught classes on understanding yourself and understanding stress now for over 20 years.
All right, and you gentlemen have gotten into this. Do you feel the difference in your lives since you've been applying these practices? What has it done for you?
Lou, my life is so much different now. The major thing I learned to do with my life was to organize it first of all, to slow it down and then to organize it. We're moving at warp 5, to use a Star Trek term. We have got to slow things down and reorient and use one of the great techniques, which is to carry a little notebook around with us and every morning write down the 5, 6, 7, or 8 things that we have to do that day, and then just set about in a logical, methodical way to accomplish them.
You know, it's funny you say that. I have a list of places
I have a list on my
that I'm going to go today, but I never managed to do everything that I'm going to do today. Now, when you at the end of the day, when you go back and look at that list, isn't that going to give you some stress? I had the day all planned out, and it didn't work like that.
You had
one of the persons I was going to see was out when I went in, you know, that kind of thing.
You had the ones on the bottom of the list to tomorrow's list.
That's exactly what I do. All right, so far we've talked about all kinds of problems, pressures, saying no to yourself, but also saying, well, I'm saying no, but this isn't going to work. So how do you condition your thinking to make this practice work?
Right. It's very simple, and that is, we talked about this earlier, is how we have achieved and acquired all these wrong ideas of what it is to be successful. And what we want to know is how to say no to the ones that really aren't successful. So what we need to do is study them. And we need to study them with true and right principles. And that's what we're learning how to do, and that's what we'll be talking about.
Obviously, a lot of people have stress. I think you were telling me that you did this in Las Vegas and just had one small ad in the paper, was it? And 35, 40 people showed up every time. So there are a lot of people that have problems. They're looking for a way out. And we all get into these situations where, you've seen the thing on TV where the lady's cooking dinner and the pot is boiling over and the phone is ringing and the kid is screaming and they're yelling at each other. All of these things added. Sometimes you don't get a chance to stop and get your thinking around to say, well, wait a minute, I shouldn't be doing this. What do you do in a real tense situation like that where there are 3 or 4 things going on all at the same time?
Right. Just briefly, we have a number of exercises, and any of the ones that we gave would be very good, but also know that, and this is such a good point, Lou, is what good does it do to get stressful? How does it help, for instance, to deal with any of those 4 or 5 situations that are going on at the time? And in fact, it hurts, because what it does is it wants to take our attention away from what we have to do at the moment, so we can learn how to keep our attention on what we're doing right now. And that's a very encouraging thing to learn.
All right, one more quick break, and we'll be right back with my guest. 356-TALK is the number. It's 950 at KOH, News Talk 63. All right, we're talking stress, and so that we don't cause any undue stress to the lady that we have on the line, let's take that call right now. Good morning. You're on the air.
Good morning. I lost my husband 2 months ago. He passed away. And 2 months ago yesterday, and I can't handle it.
All right, now there's a toughie for you guys. What do you tell this lady?
Right.
I understand your the problem, ma'am. I've recently lost several members of the family and friends, and what you have to see is that let me give you an answer that's short, but it goes right to the source. We were put on this earth individually, alone. And we were born alone, we leave it alone, and even though we spend it with people all around us, we must see the very powerful and very uplifting truth that we are individuals in life, and that life itself is a tremendous classroom where we have to learn a lot of very, very difficult lessons. And we deal with someone leaving us the best we can, and then we claim our right to start life all over again as soon as we can. And I understand that it's difficult, but please claim your right to start your life over.
Did you hear the times for these lectures, ma'am?
Yes,
you might want to attend.
I'm coming Saturday at 7.
That's fine. All right. We appreciate that. Thanks very much for your call. Good morning. You're on KOH.
Hello. I'm wondering if the gentlemen are going to give the address in Carson City tonight again for their...
Yeah, I have that right here. That's tomorrow night in Carson City at the
tomorrow night in Carson City.
The Carson City Community Center, 851 East William Street.
Let me write that down. 851 East William.
Right. Okay, you got it?
He just gave it, yeah.
Okay. Thanks very much. No, that was me giving it. He was probably listening to the radio on the delay. Thanks for your call. We don't have too much time here, and I wanted to cover a few more things. Thomas, you told me in the last break, these are not new ideas.
No, Lou, let me say this. Remember back in our early American history, an author that is very similar to author Vernon Howard, who lives today, and that old author's name was Henry David Thoreau, and Thoreau said, "Men lead lives of silent desperation." Now, there it is right there. What was the year? 1785, and Thoreau lived in Walden Pond?
That's right. He went to live by himself in the woods for a while, didn't he?
It's astonishing.
I guess that's one way to cut down on stress.
These are not new ideas. Here's a man that knew it 200 years ago.
You know, if I may, I'd like to say is that how can anything that works and it be practical actually be owned by any person or idea? These ideas have been on this earth for a long time because they do work and they are practical.
I want to ask you if, now you've been doing these lectures for how long?
Well, Tom and I have been doing them actually for 2-3 years now, I'd say.
Do you hear from people who have attended these lectures? Do they come back to you?
Yeah. That's one of the nice things about it, is to know that you're giving somebody something that actually works, and to see them again and to see how it's changed their life. And I know that these principles have helped me tremendously. For one thing, just sitting here in this interview, I can think back 5 years ago when I had a radio interview, and I was a wreck. I could hardly even talk over it.
Well, we're talking about success without stress, and I've actually heard people say, I don't want to be a success because I don't want to have a heart attack at age 35. That doesn't necessarily have to happen then, does it?
No, absolutely not.
Because, and I'm sure you hear from a lot of businessmen who are on a very close schedule. I have to meet with this guy, and then we have a lunch here, and then I have to be here. How do you condition yourself for that kind of a routine?
Well, I'll tell you. Here's a good example. People think that they're going to escape all these pressures by going on a trip, and when they get to the ski resort, guess what they took with them to the resort? They took themselves there, and they're confronted with this when they go on their vacation. Learn to drop yourself by seeing what negativities you are comprised of. And when you take your next ski trip or your next little vacation somewhere, you can take a new person with you.
That's a good point. I've taken vacations before that have been more stressful than the job has been. Or you get out on the highway. Yeah. I wish we had more time. This has been an interesting hour, and I want to thank you, gentlemen, for being with us. Let me repeat the times of these lectures again. Tonight at South Lake Tahoe, that's at the El Dorado County Free Library on the South Lake Tahoe branch on Rufus Allen Boulevard. Tomorrow night, the 18th, in Carson City, at the Carson City Community Center. And then in Reno on Saturday, 2 times on Saturday, 2 p.m. and 7, Reno Sparks Convention and Visitors Authority. And Tom and John, thank you very much.
Thank you, Lou.
For cutting down on my stress here this morning.
Very good.
It's 9:57 at KOH. I'm Lou Gutenberger. This is News Talk 63.